But what I would do, what normally would happen is I would put this in here. Before I pulled the camshaft, I would wedge it into the tappet, lift the tappet up, and I would use this part right here to hold the tappet up off the camshaft, and then I do exactly what you did. I pull the camshaft out. Now, because this, again, this is facing the ground, I can't pull a camshaft if these things aren't suspended up in the top of the block because they'll hang up. And then when I pull the cam out, they'll all drop into the pan.
And
Follow?
then get out of order.
Well, yeah, and that too, they'd get out of order. So now, what we'll do to make things a little easier, okay?
So those are matter of you're giving me that.
Yep. So what I'll do,
Magnet them out.
Exactly. There's enough parts out there that need you that you don't have to look very hard.
now, normally we would set these in the order we take them out. In fact, this would be cylinder 1.
Full time.
Uh,
Right there. Just in a
I believe
5
that's
stretch of road,
exhaust.
you have more work to do than you can imagine. Just on services that people neglect.
cylinder 1 intake. So what we'll do,
I'm finding a few of them too with the newer BMWs. 2008, 2007, and up through like 2015, 2014. Especially the all those ones. They don't want to because the rolls in it, but they start juddering. Yeah. And the dealer every time you get the transfer. You know what it is? It's supposed to take one full quart of a very special fluid. Right. Very light. And it's like proprietary by BMW.
now, you may have to turn the motor over to get access to them. I just, well, we'll just stick with that. That's a better idea.
But we're not perfect quart by right? Yeah, it only has like 9 or 10 ounces in it.
Okay. You want to lose them?
Out of a full.
No, you could label them. You know, one exhaust, one intake, and then put them in here. We're just gonna put them in there. So if I were building this to run,
What are those?
cam followers, tappets. All right, pull out.
Adaptations on the electronic
Go ahead.
control for us.
I'll pull out the following ones. Yep. Pull out the ones you can get to.
I read an article about that like last week. CVT.
Yep. Yeah. So.
That's a brand new magnet, you gotta break it in good. So make it all easy.
All right, so we get 2 bolts over in here. Where
No.
Okay, now, you guys, whenever you get ready to move something, like an engine, would you grab me a pry bar? No, that's fine. You had it.
Yeah, CVT.
All right, now.
End up using
So we can blackmail him later.
it makes the CVT.
All right, now listen up. Safety note here. Whenever you get ready to move
And maximize.
or bar the engine over and you're working with more than yourself,
Ladies,
you want to make sure everybody's hands out of the way. So before I move it, I'm going to yell clear. That's your signal to get your little digits out of the way of things. Because even with this little bit of a lever, and I start barring this over, I could seriously pinch a finger in there and cause some damage. So you want to yell clear, wait, and then turn it over so you can get access to your other followers. Watch your fingers clear.
If for any reason,
Here you go, bro.
show.
Look at that. I almost like he knows what he's doing. We got them all? Okay, we got 2 we got over here. Okay, clear. Watch your fingers, clear.
You break it? Oh, man. That's never gonna run.
That's not a
That's the wrong thread. It's got to hang on. Watch your hand here. Clear, watch your hand, watch your hand, clear.
That's really good.
Okay.
And then level 2. These are where you're gonna have fun. These two. That's the best.
Yep, that's it. Got them all?
That's two.
Yep, we got them all. Okay, now,
For you.
so what we got here, I've got a tone wheel,
Every night.
okay? And I've got a sensor right here. That sensor picks up that tone wheel, sends a signal to the ECM, so. What sensor? This guy right here?
Oh, yeah.
Nope, sends it to Cummins, so Cummins can determine where the pistons are at. Okay? So before we break this, because I know we will, somebody grab a small wrench and let's pop that seal, or that sensor out of there. I'm thinking maybe. I don't know, I'm horribly at guessing.
The thing I like about those is like the lock that's cross control. You can take one already. Like you just look at the chassis now.
I know this makes you happier, so
I just don't understand my fascination with grabbing the biggest tool for the smallest.
You know why?
Because you, well, and the reason I say it, you're gonna break shit that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely putting bolts
Like
on.
good pace. That's what I do. I just bought a
We gotta put these with those same, we gonna put
like I know right here, I have a lot to do to it, but I'm like, it's worth it. 40.
I don't know.
The biggest tool for the smallest job. Yeah, it's a sweet.
Oh, hey, man, talk about making stuff.
Different the inside. It's different the inside.
It's all right, man, you're the teacher, you got a license.
All parts.
Super glue it.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, I know.
Because
Because it's coming from China and they're all sick with the virus. Right? Didn't see that coming, did you? Actually, no, believe it or not, Nissan shut down the plant because they can't get parts.
Really?
Yeah.
And you can't burn a piston that where you don't burn a quarter.
Are we taking all these off too, or no?
No, these are not going to be in our way.
Yeah.
So this is a coolant temp sensor, so it's threaded into the passage. So I'm not worried about that. The reason I popped that bad bear out is I could damage that sensor while I'm removing the crankshaft. Okay, like I just did, right. Okay. So,
if you're burning one quarter,
oddly enough though, Cummins charges a boatload for sensors. I had to replace the turbo speed sensor on my motorhome, right? And it looked very similar to that.
Damage broke right there, my dear. He did that?
Is it just like that?
It was very similar to that. Very similar. Okay, so now what we're gonna do here is, first thing, let's pull off this dude. So I've got access to the front of the motor. So there's like 4 bolts holding that on. Like I think they're 12, but
And now you can use the big one, right?
no, they're only in there like 30 pounds. They're not, because most of this stuff is aluminum.
I'm already turning it.
Are you really? I was like, dang, we're just gonna call you Vice Grip, man. Mr. Vice Grip here. So let's do this to make it a little safer. Why don't you rotate the motor up? So stand clear, put this facing up.
Where's it going if we're turning? Right in the air.
Oh, yeah.
But you
I mean, you could have gone that way,
but
but there's more turning.
that you'll use low tension
You do whatever.
and everything.
Yeah,
And then
that's,
burn a shit ton of oil.
so that,
Oh, so
this dude back
this,
here is the crank position sensor.
so we're doing this so this can't fall
Fuel
off?
vapor
Right.
burns all
Yeah.
Now this guy here, if you look at the back of that camshaft, you see you've got 7 notches on the back of that camshaft. Those notches tell the ECM which piston's coming up on compression. Okay? Not many up there. No, leave that, that's fine, that's the oil pump, that's fine.
Just two?
2 or 3, there's not a lot.
So we're not gonna,
That's all
the oil pump's not coming out
I'm not gonna
now.
mess with that yet.
Yeah, okay.
Ready for take these?
Way to go! You dropped the washer in the block, now we gotta pull the whole motor out of the engine. That's fine. It happens.
Nothing else? None of these,
See,
Mike?
no.
Okay.
To that point, you know, you've got to be careful when you're pulling bolts out of things.
V6 with exhaust.
Because,
I know, like that.
and that's a good point, I'm glad you did that, because everybody does it. If you're not paying attention, you're gonna drop a washer in here. Now, because we gotta understand, it's no big deal,
Old Firebirds back
okay?
then.
But if I've got this thing sitting in a bus, and I'm pulling this off for whatever reason, because a lot of times they'll do that, and I drop something in here after I've pulled the cam out of it, I gotta find it. I can't just put it back together, oh, it'll work its way down on the bottom. No. You know, so when you're working on bolts that got washers, be aware you got washers. You can't just go, ooh, start taking shit off and going, oh my God. Because here's what happens. The less than professional guy doing this won't tell the guy taking over he dropped a washer in it, and he'll let the other guy take the hit for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the bad thing about not finishing the whole job yourself.
Or the guy that started it isn't as professional as you, because if I did that, I'd say, hey, dude, I effed up. I dropped the
And
washer.
that's the
in motor."
biggest time waster is looking for bolts or stuff you drop.
Well, making your own mistakes.
Is there any way to get it out? Like,
Yeah, you're probably gonna have to pull the pan and hope it made its way down into the pan.
that'll be another.
And if it didn't,
another hour.
now you gotta go fishing. Right? Now this isn't bad. I've pulled down
Magnets can be very helpful.
3208 big Caterpillar motors, and they're carnivorous. You can drop small wrenches.
That's gotta come off.
Tiny magnets, you can push them
Magnets
down
gotta
in
come
there.
off and say.
Or you know the inspection cameras, you know the borescope, they make a magnet tool that goes on the borescope.
Yeah, this
So
has
you
gotta
can
come off. I
push
put it
down
up
in
here
there,
to
you
hold
can
this
see,
place. I got tired
and
of
then you
tripping over.
can.
Okay, so that's
This
probably
is the
a
front motor mount.
15.
Now, Mike, you're gonna need probably a breaker bar, because that's probably on there pretty tight.
On the Detroit 50, you know the 4-cylinder Detroits, you turn sideways in it, he was scraping the intake handful using a
Sometimes you
screwdriver
can
with a
snake it out,
bit.
but you know what? I'm not gonna argue with it.
For some reason, the bit fell out and it fell in the intake manifold. He was just sitting there holding his hand like, he went fishing with the magnets for a while.
I don't make a habit of losing something, someone's face is right there, if it slips. It just KOs the guy. Which for me, it's vacation in Wisconsin.
On this side.
Broken nose, you know.
Oh, on top.
Yeah, on top.
Okay, correct.
And we'll get the 20%.
The other ones that we're
This Google Harbor Freight
this side as well.
digital saving, and then boom, that shit comes up.
Oh, my wife says they do.
What, the push rod?
The
So you know, Google
yes,
The push rod.
Harbor Freight.
You know,
I'm not sure.
kid, she recorded
was
it.
another
Yeah,
one.
so
Sometimes they
It happened
She
so
said,
fast when
I
they
said, my God, what is that? She said, you. I'm like,
Yeah, they did it so fast.
I'm gonna do it right.
Push rods. Push rods
Really easy.
have to go in a certain order. But
Yeah, see,
they would from this side.
I tried to remember.
and then there it is. It's the fastest way to get it.
So
But you have to
stop.
They just scan it right up.
go
Alright,
back in the same groove.
so this sensor here
Yeah.
looks at the
No,
back of
push
my
rods.
cam, and I've got 7 notches. Now, why would I have 7 notches if it's a 6-cylinder engine? Now, we'll cover this when we get into ignition, but anybody know why there's a 7th notch?
What was that again, Mike?
Why it has 7 notches?
I've got notches on the back of my camshaft that this sensor looks at, and it can report the position of the pistons
Take video, pictures.
when they're coming up on their compression stroke. This sensor on the bottom tells exactly where the pistons are at. So it uses the 2 sensors to know where the pistons are at and what stroke they're on, right? Well, I got 6 pistons, but why do I have 7 notches? And those 7th notch are really close together. So what's with the 7th notch? It tells me where number 1 is. So if I have 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4, and then I see the 7th notch, that tells the ECM to start the firing order over again. Because if I don't have that 7th notch, it's not going to know what to do. 1, 5, 3, 6. Well, here's another notch. 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? But if I have another notch, the 7th notch, it says, okay, start over. 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. Start over. 1, 5, 3, 6, 2, 4. See, these computers aren't as smart as you think they are. You got to tell them every step of the way. We had an exercise in college. It said, write down how you make a jelly sandwich. I was like, great. Okay, get the bread, get the jelly, get the knife, spread the jelly on the bread, and you got a sandwich. She said, well, where'd you get the jelly from? I said, well, the refrigerator. Okay. Well, how'd you get it from the refrigerator to the counter? Well, I carried it. Well, okay, was the top off of it? No, then you gotta put it in and take off the top. So it's very step by step by step, and that's what you have to do for this computer. I don't tell it to repeat the firing order, it's just gonna error, and the engine stops running.
In an in-frame, you don't have to take that off, right?
No, no. Yep, those notches there. No, on an in-frame, well, it all depends. Generally speaking, no, you don't.
In here, that's the critical one with the two next.
Well, they're all critical. It's not gonna run without 7 notches. They're all very critical. Okay? It's just without the 7th notch, it's not gonna know to start over on the firing order. Or it'll think it's a 5-cylinder engine. Either way, you're gonna get a code. Okay? Either way, you're gonna get a code.
That's part of how you get the camshaft correlation codes too.
It's from there.
Yeah.
Your timing.
Now, in the automotive world, your camshaft's like that long. Right? Pick your teeth with it. Yeah, maybe not. Depends on the gap in your teeth, I suppose, right? You need to go to the dentist. Okay, now, what we're going to do is we're going to start removing pistons. We're taking pistons out of this bad there, okay? Now,
It's crazy
So-
the way that worked back.
nope, we're going to leave it like this because we're going to take and push them up that way.
From the
Okay.
crank and then the cam. If you took the cam
Sure.
wave and the crank wave and you invert them, it should fit together.
Alrighty, so
And then
get me a
it shouldn't be
socket.
too much this way or too much this way. That'll give you
And I need a
both.
couple of
They're
bolts
just
to
saying the timing
rotate
though.
this
See?
back there.
But then that's where the misfire detection
There's a
comes in
socket
too.
right here.
If say
Those are
cylinder 5
operating
has a miss or
type.
any cylinder, let's just say 5, right?
You want-
Say
you
cylinder
wanna
5
do
has a
the
miss.
otters, Mike?
It knows how many
Not
teeth
really.
on the crank are supposed to come around, and then it's supposed to see 5, right? Well, if 5 is always a couple milliseconds late, that's where the misfire counter comes in. You know, count
Mike,
1,
Mike,
2,
Mike.
3,
Oh.
4, 5. Oh,
Good,
that's the
David,
threshold.
home, Dave!
Yeah.
Started getting
It's just
that out,
it's
you know?
you know, they are really smart with the magic.
Yeah,
that they
coming,
use.
right?
All this shit is nuts and bolts. This shit is simple.
These are the rod caps.
Yeah.
Love that freaking commercial.
But then they
So
have
if a
issues
camel with
too.
one hump,
Round
have a
of
camel with 2
That's a problem
humps,
that they
have a
have.
camel with no humps, what's the camel's name?
There's like a 51.
Humphrey. But I'm pumped.
You gotta mark them, dude.
Alright, hang on now,
They were
alright.
aluminum piston, right?
Just a minute. Couple things you want to do here
Or they were
to make your assembly a little easier. Slow down. Alright.
They're one piece? I don't know. But I know they were
Now,
cracking
if you
them
look at the
like
manual, Cummins will tell you which way this cap
they're putting steel
goes on the
pistons in, so I
connector.
think it was aluminum.
It will tell you.
But it's
To make,
it's such a
huh?
hot running engine.
They'll tell you to make sure that the numbers on the
I know
cap
it's in Brooklyn,
face the oil cooler side of the motor.
Jackie Gleason people.
Numbers on the cap
Oh.
face the oil cooler side of the motor.
But you can't mix those, right? You gotta go.
I was going there, thank you. You also want to make sure,
And they're running these, right?
and usually the factory will do it,
Nobody wanted to work with
somewhere on here will be a number stamp
it. I
1.
just kept going. And I lost like
Okay? If there isn't, you put one on there.
Two upside.
Getting a little electronic. So that can-
Yeah, or you get the punch.
No, but
Oh, yeah.
No. It's gonna be up here somewhere. Can't see it.
Maybe it's with the washer.
Yeah, could be. We would have to mark it. So what my previous class did, you'll notice there's a little arrow on here that points to the front of the engine. Right? So if I know which way the cap goes, I'll know which way to orientate the rod to put it in the engine. Okay? Because I can put this rod in backwards and it'll bind up on the journal and lock the motor up, and now I got problems. Okay? Or destroy the
Do we
bearing.
use a Sharpie or is that?
Well, what I would do if I had a punch set, a number stamp set, I would stamp number 1 on here somewhere where I can see it. Okay? Because especially if you're using aftermarket rods. So let's say these aren't the rods that came in the engine when they built it, because we're doing an in-frame or had an in-frame done, and the guy that did the previous in-frame bought new rods for it. Okay, so they may not even be stamped with numbers. Follow me? Now, when they make the rod,
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
they'll bore the hole, and then they'll split the cap. Okay, so this is probably a fracture cut. It is. It's a fracture cut. Okay, you see how rough it is? Okay, that means it's married to this one. Okay, and the way they do that, if you ever watch a mason cut a brick, he etches a line in it, then he hits it with a hammer, and it breaks along that line. That's what they do here. They'll bore it first, they'll etch it, and then they'll smack it. Now, Cummins will tell you that if you drop this cap and mush up this surface, the rod cap is no good. Okay? Okay, they built them, they would know. I would probably disagree. I'm thinking it's just their way of selling more parts. But the theory is sound.
Have you dropped a lot of those, Mike?
Yeah, I dropped a few. The theory is sound in that if I drop this, it's gonna screw up the mating surface to here. Now, if that's, I don't know if that would be enough to affect the running clearance.
The performance of it.
Right, right. So, we've got this off, and what we're going to do, we'll mark it, but we're gonna put my pistons and rods on there. So let's drive this piston out. So I need to move this engine over.
Times I told you TI's doing that. Mark the damn rods
Yeah,
and
on
cap
this,
take them out.
normally you
So we
need
put it back together. Return.
a little rubber boot for the rod.
Not this particular type. Okay, so just drop it in there. Okay, so stand clear.
When you go back together, remember what you were saying about turning it between each one you put on, so you know if that's what's causing it. Put both together, and then it won't turn. Didn't you mark it? Yeah, it is marked, but they got one back.
Show you how this
Like, all right, I already see what
Oh, like that.
Figure out what's
and
going
you
on.
catch her.
So you don't have to, you don't score the wall. I mean, I know it's a training.
Sometimes they would be able to get it, sometimes they wouldn't.
Even out in the shop, you wouldn't do that.
Some people
Oh, in the shop, you
are
would
cut
use
from
it.
the
Brownie.
all the time.
Push.
And it's hard, they don't want to say that to anybody.
One more push. All
Push.
right, hang on a minute.
Freddie.
People that are really good and they want to
That's good.
There we go. It's a.
Oh, he got it. He got it.
All right.
It's
Look
the
at that,
thing.
man, I'm telling you.
All right, where's my cap?
The biggest thing with this fracture thing is we
Now,
don't want cap work.
we
It's
would,
attached.
By having it
What I'm going to
fractured, all
do
those nooks and crannies, it just
is where are the bolts that came out of
very
it?
unique.
Where's the bolts? Where?
No, it's not, those aren't them.
I need my rod bolts. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. No.
It's not really sharp, it's kind of blunt when it comes to the point. And then it's not where it hits it.
Now, if I'm gonna do this,
It's on YouTube.
I would still mark it because you just never know what happens to your parts when you leave them overnight. You could have a janitor that's got an issue and he's gonna come in and think he's gonna have fun and mix everything up, whatever. So, and no, I've had that happen in Long Beach. So I mark all my shit, right? And I mean, I mark it
Someone
permanent.
sabotaged.
Yeah, they try. That janitor had an accident in the parking lot. Well, no, I had an engine torque part and he took all my parts off and threw it in a bucket. So if I hadn't marked it, I would have had to buy new rod caps. Actually, we'd have had to get a new box because he ditched the main caps and rod caps and rods and threw them in a bucket and he says, fix that. I'm like, no problem.
He did it
He
on
says, I'll meet
purpose?
you in the parking lot after work. And I beat him into a 2-day, I beat the crap out of him.
But he did that on purpose or just.
When I left him, he was unconscious and I separated his shoulder. So,
What you do, hit him with a car?
huh?
You hit him with your car?
No, I beat the crap out of him. Beat him. I wanted to teach him a lesson. You know, because if I didn't mark my stuff, we'd have had to buy a new block. Because he screwed with the main cap and the rod. And he's like, yeah, how you gonna fix that? I'm like, oh, I'll fix it. But you get the tuna.
Tuna.
Alright, so I'm gonna drop these in here. So now they're out of the way, they're off the table. They're in an organized fashion. Okay. Cummins will sell you this tool and look really cool, and they'll sell it to you about $300. Oh yeah. And it'll say Cummins and look really cool.
Hey, Red.
This is
All of us get
recycled.
one of those, right?
Huh?
We all get one of those, right?
Yeah, sure.
Red now.
I was gonna put Cummins on it. And, I don't know. You know what? Believe it or not, I've seen this. I've used this for 15 years. I've been here. It doesn't look that sturdy, but it hangs in there. It hangs. The biggest thing I got to worry about is termites.
Sit downstairs.
All right, where are we at, guys? Yes. What's up with that tube? Okay, that tube is an oiler. What that does is it sprays oil underneath the top of the piston to cool the top of the piston for emission. In fact, what we can do, yeah, let's put the motor on its belly. Other way. And we will go ahead and pull those oilers out with a, I think that's about a 10 or a 12 millimeter and a long extension. That way we don't, normally you don't want to have them in when you're reinstalling the piston because then you'll break the oil.
12 or 13 years old. And I learned everything else because I learned scientific principles from engines. All the way down to the metallurgy.
Mike,
You know what I mean?
put that back, get a create stride extension, a create stride socket.
Still love it.
Yeah, we can use it.
Like I said earlier, it's just something about the way they run. Like it almost takes on like a living.
No,
presence.
because it's not gonna fit.
Well, I'm just saying there's not the best selection of,
Dude,
corner drive.
you got an extension there, you got an extension there.
If you know this and if you know a lot about buses, then you know electrical.
Put the other extension on there and make it longer.
Plumbing, you know engine.
You give yourself some room.
I had some HVAC guys come in from the house HVAC guys.
This one,
What do you know about HVAC?
here.
Well, I work on both of them. Trust me, I know HVAC.
Go get me a 12. Never mind. That one's gonna be a problem.
I'm the collector.
Is that plastic? Yep.
This one is, oh, the same thing.
No, they'll come right out.
It had it would either complete the circuit.
Okay, drop in a bucket.
Mike, I have a question. Race rings are, the way you put them on are a certain way?
Yeah, you gotta stagger the gap.
Oh. On all of them, right?
Yes.
So the oil can't get, it gets past one, but then not the.
¿Quieres ponerte tu uniforme?
Voy a traer
Okay, hands clear.
Clear.
I need my brake bar. I need my
Reach behind there.
clear.
Freeze lines running all over inside the car.
Mike,
Going.
where's the other one?
Oh,
Where's the other one?
Keep going.
I don't know, that's a good question.
Keep going.
Yeah, how many,
Keep going.
do we have in there?
6, one for each cylinder. A little more. A little more. A little more.
Electrical tape. So I showed up out there and inspected the house before. The ladder down. I got
Not showing good at video.
Well, but most of the heat's trapped on top of the piston and the bottom of the head. So down here it doesn't get, you know, when you compare how hot it is, it doesn't get all that hot.
You need my hand? You need a hand? Yeah. You need a hand?
Yeah, you got students for that shit.
I know, I'm just getting that off. All right, bar it. That's still pretty tight. We're gonna have to kind of customize that one. Okay, bar it.
That's clear.
Get your digits out of the way. That's right. Keep going. We got these two we'll look at. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, the low.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. little more. Stop. Actually, back it up just a skosh. Stop. Should be able to get that. All right. Try that. Where's the tool?
Which one are we taking off?
These two. I think you might be able to get to it. If not, the bars.
Okay.
Is it in the way? Okay, your hands clear. You be able to reach in there and get it?
Give me a little piece of napkin.
No, they're not. There's no metal. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, the magnet.
Where's my magneto?
Which one?
See. Try that. See if that'll grab it.
Got the washer.
I know that sounds like a doctor's story, but you know, one of the most expensive.
You know what? Let's bar. Okay, get your paws out. Bar it until this side's over there. Keep going. Now it may hit. It may hit. Watch your hands. No, get it. Okay. Turn. Slowly. Turn. I want this side over there. So it's barred. Spin it. Spin. Stop.
Look at that, it's wide open. I'll take this one.
Johnny?
Like my favorite Martian, right?
What is that? I've never seen them show it.
This is an oiler. Now, what these do? Let me borrow this. What these do
That was
is,
a little bit harder.
yeah, I think I had to use a crow's foot. We have an emissions requirement on this engine. So one of the ways we lower my emissions is I'll take engine oil and I'll spray on the bottom of the piston and it cools the top of the piston. So that's how we control the combustion chamber temperature below that magic number of 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. One of the ways I assist in doing that is using these oilers. Now, if you bend this oiler, okay, these things are computer aimed. Right? It's designed by a computer that when it's installed in this engine, it strikes a piston at a particular spot for optimum cooling. If you bend this thing, you drop it or something hits it on the table and it bends, you ain't fixing it. You're gonna be like, oh, I'll just bend it back. And oddly enough, this comes from Cummins. If this isn't aimed right, you'll see a rise in your emissions. So if you damage one of these, you've got to replace it. You can't just put it in the vise and bend it back and think it's gonna work.
That'll burn a hole in the piston.
Okay, do we got any left other than number 6?
The Cummins
Well,
video.
that's the 6.
Yep.
How many have in the bucket?
Oh, should have 5.
That's pretty slick how it goes under the,
Yeah.
into the seat. I haven't seen.
Yes.
Was that component, how do you know it's like calibrated correctly? What if it's damaged in transit or something?
It'll be one of those things where they can't get it to meet emissions,
It's one of those things too where it's
or they'll have a piston
and you start
that has a higher than usual exhaust temperature coming out of the exhaust manifold. So one of the things,
in most cases you can just pull the oil pan down.
one of the things would be,
To where you can install them.
now it wouldn't be easy to troubleshoot because the last thing the guy's gonna think is the boiler.
We do it.
But after everything else has been checked, then that's something you should consider.
Trucks.
Yeah, yeah. I've never heard of
When you're
that happening, but it can because, you know, human engineering.
When you do a rebuild, you don't have to take those out.
Yeah, you would because you don't want to damage them when you're installing the system.
Oh.
In fact, in the manual, it tells you to take them out before installing the system.
We're gonna eventually take the crank out.
Yeah, yeah. I can probably get that.
This one here?
How can
Maybe
you
with
have
a
one that
little,
piston?
What's that?
How can you have one that piston?
Rings are bad, hole in the piston, that part of the head gas's blown.
It still moves, but it's only because one is defective.
Yeah, this piston's still gonna turn, even if it has no compression. It's still gonna travel up and down in the bore.
But what happens if you have one dead piston?
Rough running engine, no power, smoke, overheats.
Can you blow up the engine?
Huh?
Can you blow up the engine?
Well, that's a slang term for a defective engine. What you got is a dead hole. It's not making power, it's not making compression, it's just putting a load, a parasitic load on the engine. It's just being forced to turn, but it's not contributing to the work. All right, let's draw out another piston. So let's put this bad bear, before we do that, let's stand it up. Put,
same way this.
either way, put that in facing over there. Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter, because I can pull them out that way, actually, go the other way, spin it over the other way.
We were doing it.
Yeah. Spin it over the other way.
Which, well, actually,
And I've got a piston.
would you go in order?
No, you take them out, whatever's convenient. So let's put a couple of bolts up here. Just slide them in the blank holes. There you go. And I want to rotate this one until it's all the way up in its bore. So turn it.
Clear.
Clear.
Careful you hit.
There. Yeah. Probably don't want to lose that either. It's muy importante. Keep going. Keep going.
Where's that washer?
Keep going. Keep going. Very
I'll
funny.
spend another hour here.
Keep going. Keep going. Stop. All right. Let's pop that cap.
Washers, Mike.
I like my washers, man. If I saw you building a motor when you got done, I'd take a whole bucket of washers, dump it on the table. Dude, you forgot some parts. So that's piston number, what, two? All right. Now, you have to, if the rod's connected to the piston, okay, and you're reusing the rod piston assembly on a used crank, you have to put the number 2 rod on the number 2 journal. If you mix them up, it may present clearance issues, and you won't know that until you fire it up.
And where, right?
Probably where. But if I put it back in its original position, that rod bearing has married itself to that journal. So they're custom fit, if you will. You got it off?
I have to push it now.
Just like wearing someone else's
Let's
shoe.
back that up a little bit because it's the length. So pull the rod journal down. So back it up. You can leave those bolts in there. You don't have to take them out every time. Back it up. Back it up. Other way, other way, other way. No, okay. Keep going. Stop. Put the cap on it. Now you guys do the rest of it. Yeah, put the cap on.
Why do you have to back it up?
Because I can't get the rod clear of the bore or the journals in the way. Okay. So now I've got 2 journals here that are just waiting to be taken off.
Because they're right there, right? Okay.
Now, Mike, you got the numbers on the right side?
Detroit 16. You can't just pull that out and pick it out right there. You have to take the whole liner out, color out. And the freaking
And imagine if it's inside the bus.
The way to do it, you have like the same plumber's plug design that you were showing for the one of the electric
And you were the one rotating.
And you just turn this bolt on top, and it just freaking pulls the whole thing right up off of there. You grab it and lift it out. When you buy it original, you just get that whole and you just literally just drop those things in. Use the specified grease, obviously. You just
No, the one that cleans the whole car.
torque it up.
Oh, yeah.
In frame.
when you're under, it's like
Tank, lock,
I know a guy, an instructor at UTI, 35 years of Detroit experience. They came down with a new regulation that if you teach engines.
Well, loosen that cap, that way we'll get them both ready to go, since they're both in the same position, right?
You have to be fully ASD certified in that subject. So
that's
he never did
number-
brakes.
that's number
All he ever
2,
did
right?
was engines. He did engines for
Alright, go put
marine,
it on
for
the
trucks, for
hanger
buses,
for number
including scrap all over the world to diagnose wear problems.
Yeah.
I mean, 35 years of Detroit people were they were ready to let this guy go.
Oh, that's
because
Small in the industrial world, that's not big
so
at
they
all.
asked me to work with him because me and him worked really well together. they asked me to work with him and teach him brakes in the system so he could get his ASE.
So
And
we'll have to rotate that.
another manager.
I'll have to rotate that bad bear. Now, hold on.
Patient and work well with him. Good personality, cater to him, you know. And so they tried with him. He failed the first time.
I know.
And then,
What
they
cylinder
finally
did this
gave
come
me-
off of? Four.
And they were like,
Four,
just
right? Four
work
on there.
with them. So I did. You got along good. You learned a lot, and then he passed it. They were like, what was different about the way you taught him versus
Okay.
him? I said, well,
Okay, don't make this three.
That's fine.
I
Now,
just related to him.
write that 3.
And made the subject matter
Yeah.
come across in a way that he could understand. Related everything to engines. I know he really knows.
Oh, is that?
Not the ideal way, but it's better than
Yeah,
nothing.
because it's,
Should we mark the other ones too?
And it worked. He was able to keep his job.
But
He was
they're on
so
their pistons,
grateful
so.
for that.
All right, so slowly
He's a
mark.
good guy. Yeah. He's
That
in his
should work.
70s.
That's
The
okay.
thing is that how could you
Take
even
that
as a
bearing off.
corporation like that consider
And when you push that
letting
piston
go of
out, put it back
someone
up to the
with that
rod.
kind of experience? Who the students
So I need a catcher.
Doctor. And he was
Pull it. What do you got, extended labor?
Just wiggling, it's the only way out.
We're having triplets.
We're at triplets now.
Number 3.
I would ask a question and the whole class had to answer it. And it was like for
We're having too much fun with this.
This one guy that
You
asked
guys
a
are
question.
twisted.
I think that's why he likes AM class.
Oh, no, there's a lot more smack talking in the afternoon.
Oh, really?
Oh,
It
a lot more.
is?
Yeah.
His name was John.
Everybody sleeps?
I remember him.
Yep.
He would always talk about it.
And I'm the target.
Are you serious? Sad.
The bearing in it?
Yes.
Bearing in the
Oh,
tap?
man.
Yeah.
Because he's an actual combat veteran.
He's one of them.
So he had
That's
low PTSD. And so he would just love it. So he requested to be in my classes.
How do you call me
A
again?
couple times I had to calm him down. So I
Alright.
was trying to get through the, he was doing very good.
Roll that R, Mike.
And then they took away his
Lorena.
SLC status.
Lorena. Well, no, my wife's name's Lorraine.
Top student in the
Oh, see, so that's why you got it.
Yeah.
And, they took
Otherwise,
it away
it'd
from me.
be,
And I said, at least they didn't
Calling my
make me
wife by the
fail.
wrong name?
it'd be in the
That
doghouse.
does not go over well.
Be in the
Next
doghouse.
class, try not to call anybody. And I was
Really
like,
easy was when I dated a young lady named Michelle. That worked.
Desk warrior. And he just
Mike
busted
and
up
Michelle, so
laughing.
that was not hard to remember. All right, let's get number 5 out. And when you're drunk, you need every little hint you can get.
No problem.
She goes, what's my name? I'm like, oh Christ, there's a test.
Wait, no, go more.
For the first 7 years of my life, I thought my name was Jesus Christ.
Right
Jesus Christ, what'd you do now? I had a brother named Goddammit.
there.
Brother named
Let
Goddammit.
me catch this.
We don't need to push him to that. So what can we do to punish him?
Uh-oh.
That's not something I want to hear my mechanic say.
Oh, shit.
No, it's all right.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you could say after that.
Hey, no, turn
I know.
He said, well, look at behavior.
I just couldn't.
Famous word, last word. Oh, shit.
He said he was out in the front.
This one doesn't have the,
And he would see
rough
his friends.
part on the.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, that's all right. I can make it work.
Use this.
One thing you don't want to hear.
I can make it
I can make it work, yeah. Especially
another
when you
one.
see Ford Parts Box and you drive a Chevy. This isn't good. I was, you know how the light bulbs you buy, they got the little tanks that custom fit? I got the wrong one for my Jeep, so I had my little file out, I was gonna make it fit. My wife's like, why don't you just go get the right part? I'm like, what fun is that? So she made me go get the right light bulb. Take it back.
Yeah.
Maybe he won't notice you screwed with it.
He did it.
I did. I was almost ready to try and see if it fit. My wife's like, just because you have tools doesn't mean you gotta use all of them.
And was it point twice, right?
Little lock valve.
It's crazy.
Guys, how do you
Finally, someone's gotta work today other than me.
Benefits.
We'll get these last pistons out and we'll take a break. What is this, like the peanut gallery over here? Standing over there like I got some kind of coronavirus?
Bertie, you know Bertie? Like that Bertie? I told him peanut gallery, he goes, he never heard of that.
Really?
Bertie pushes that.
He's never heard of the peanut gallery?
Oh my God.
All right, catcher.
Hey.
Pushing.
Yeah.
I know, it's a really good opportunity, I'm grateful for it.
You're
Turn the,
yeah, but you deal with parks, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, so this is
Clear,
gonna
clear,
walk you
clear.
up so cool.
Just turning.
It doesn't turn them.
Go the other way.
But they pay you for the class.
Yeah.
They pay me.
There we go. Do I have to get a softener for you?
No, it's okay.
Okay, is the bearing in the cap?
Yeah.
Where's the pen?
It's a pen, it's a pen.
Hey, Rich.
You can write something down.
You're gonna do number 6?
It's number 5, by the way.
Put it away first.
As long as I can make people laugh. I should have been a comedian.
Yeah, but we got the double, right? So there's no number there, no number there. It's always about
Go ahead.
See what you mean about the
Right here like that for right now.
Yeah, and when you work at the spec, it'll swim right in there. But if you get it backwards, you might handle it.
Having a good lunch already?
Someone's hungry then.
I
Someone's
know.
hungry, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can-
What am I smelling? I smell food.
We do think
Yes.
Chicken.
chicken. Somebody's having a good lunch.
A food truck is out there or something?
I also smoke potatoes.
Looks like Kentucky Fried Chicken or something.
That's what
So,
you smell?
what, I think it was last Thanksgiving,
Chicken and potatoes.
my wife put a Cornish game ham inside the turkey, right? So when we pulled it out, my wife goes, oh, they got a pregnant turkey. We pulled the game ham out, and my daughter's like, oh, that's so sad. I'm like,
Hold that up.
that was funny. That was my wife's idea. She said, hey, Mike, watch this. Let's get Catrice. That's her daughter's name.
She didn't consider eggs.
Keep going, yeah.
That'll be next Thanksgiving.